India is a crock-pot of various traditions and cultures, religion being of vital importance. Its history is packed with coexisting faiths, dominantly Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism, and more, including the rise of the Muslim dynasties in medieval times. More contemporarily, we can focus on British colonialism, where, in the late 1800s to mid-20th century, the British East Indian Company, and later the British Crown, annexed the country. Revolution and peaceful protests, led by the famous faces such as Mahatma Gandhi, sparked Indian nationalism and the subsequent independence movement in 1947. Today, India is one of the most culturally diverse countries in the world, with various practicing religions and regional cultures varying greatly. It's also got various family systems, like joint, or more commonly now found, nuclear families, and still a large emphasis on arranged marriages. It's a festive country with many festivals and holidays happening throughout the year. They are national holidays, but there are many more belonging to the plethora of religions and cultures. Wildlife is incredibly important, as is food, which is an inseparable part of Indian culture, in style and image. Visibly, the culture is colorful and exuberant, as seen with the colored architecture and clothing, where bright and cheerful colors are important to human rights. India in May elected a new government under Narendra Modi. The new government promises growth and to end corruption and begin more projects of development. They also stress the issue of female projection and the causes of abuse, as well as freedom of speech. They also introduced modern sanitation facilities, treatment of minorities. The treatment of minorities spiked in 2013. It was targeted at those who followed Muslim faith, giving them no proper relief at justice. Impunity. Members of India's Secret Service Force continue to enjoy impunity from serious human rights violations. There is few cases of military being sentenced to life sentence due to 5 innocent citizens being killed. Women's rights. Until 2014, there was no legal reform for issues of rape. This often led to major protests. The government introduced modern treatment for these problems, but only 2 states have the resources to follow the procedures. Children's rights. It's common in India for child labor to occur, as well as child rapes, abuse, and for them to have rough working conditions. Millions of children don't get support and are forced to drop out of school to go to work. Less than 20% of the people who need mental health treatment actually have access. They are commonly abandoned or forcibly put into institutions by their relatives. Foreign policy. New governments intensified engagements of world leaders to promote trade and investment. Human rights did not feature strongly in public statements, but did agree to cooperate in regional issues. Education. India's literacy rate is 71% compared to the world's average that is 84% according to UNESCO. That is broken down into 81% for males and 61% for females. India spends 3.8% of their GDP compared to Canada, who spends 5.4% of their GDP on education. It's evident that there is still more of an effort on education spending in Canada. In India, enrollment rates for primary schools is 93%, 69% for secondary, and 25% for tertiary education. This suggests that India has a smaller percentage of the population furthering their education. However, Canada has a level of 55% for tertiary education. India now has 1.4 million schools and 7.7 million teachers. As well, 98% of their population now have a primary school within 1 kilometer walking distance of them. In recent decades, India has made significant progress on access to schools and enrollment rates in primary education, but dropout rates and low levels of learning remain challenges for the state and central government. India's unique location, matched with its tropical monsoons climate, ensures a fair supply of moisture and therefore forms of basic farming in India. India has many natural resources, their strongest being coal, as they have the 5th largest reserve in the world. Some other than natural resources include iron ore, diamonds, and petroleum. Political relations with adjacent countries. India has a turbulent and eclectic relations with both neighboring countries and those abroad. Generally, it is a regional power, a nascent global power, and a potential superpower. Pakistan to the west shares many attributes to India. In the most recent decade, great measures have been taken to reconcile to the two countries by the new government, though there is still widespread divide in populations. Its relation to China to the northeast boasts a much less hostile relation, with a historically rich history in bilateral trade. Yet populations are continually worried over border disputes and military conflict fears. Today, India is attempting more favorable relations with the US, China, EU, Japan, Israel, Mexico, and Brazil for economic prosperity, and continually has close ties with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, the African Union, and the Arab League in Iran. Government power. The government of India is democratic, therefore making a country a federal republic. India's current chief of state is President Mukherjee, alongside his vice president Mohammad Ansari, and the head of government is Prime Minister Modi. Economy. India has the 7th largest economy and the 2nd most prosperous country. India is one of the fastest growing major economies, seeing a rising growth rate of 6.9% in 2013 to 7.3% last year. Its economic structure is what we call an open market economy with no barriers to free market activity. This means no tariffs, taxes, licensing requirements, subsidies, unionization, or any other regulatory practices that therefore would decrease free trade in the market. India's official overall GDP last year was $2.2 trillion US dollars, and the country saw GDP per capita of $6,300 US dollars in 2015, leaving India in 158 in comparison to the rest of the world. For context, Canada's GDP per capita was $45.9 thousand US dollars in 2015. India's economy encompasses traditional village farming, modern agriculture, handcrafts, various modern industries, and many services. With a labor force of 5.2 million in 2015, India has capitalized on the large English-speaking population to become a major exporter of information technology services, businesses outsourcing services, and software workers. However, 7.1% of their population is still unemployed. Intellectual property level. IP is in reference to brand invention, design, or creation, which is a person or business that can have legal rights over the majority of companies. The World Trade Organization requires all partners nations to create IP laws that are similar to other developed countries. Technology advancement level. India has always had a very strong focus on science and technology, as this field currently is, and in recent history has been a key element to the country's economic growth. Due to the expanding middle class and rise in purchasing power of rural residents, the demand for technological innovation has vastly increased. The Indian government has also put an emphasis on encouraging studies in the scientific fields among India's youth through numerous technological universities and institutes. In addition, the government of India has implemented policies such as the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, which among other things aspires to position India among the world's top 5 scientific powers by 2020 through fast, sustainable, and more inclusive growth. Current industry structure. Before independence, India was ruled by private people. After India became independent, they were prioritized towards self-development of Indian industries. This results in an increase of GDP of 24.6% solely because of these industries. Sickness in industrial economy is common and natural. It's defined as a company registered for no less than 5 years, which at the end of any fiscal year accumulated losses equal or exceeding to its entire net worth and has suffered cash losses. This results in a great unemployment. The government policy is that it will handle it effectively and systematically. The policy released in 1985 says that every government should concentrate on sickness industries who are running in India. International trade. Regional and international trade agreements. India is a founding member of the United Nations, part of the G20 countries, G8, and G4 nations. They were a Commonwealth of Nations. They are part of the IMF, World Bank, as well as 13 additional UN organizations. India's top exporting partners include the US at 13%, the UAE at 27.9%. India is the 18th largest exporter in the world economy. India's top exporting partners are the US at 13.4%, the UAE at 10.4%, Hong Kong at 4.3%, China at 4.2%, Saudi Arabia at 4%. Their net exports total $329.6 billion a year. Their top export commodities in order from most commonly exported include petroleum products, precious stones, vehicles, machinery, iron and steel, chemical, pharmaceutical products, cereals, and apparel. Their top importing partners are China at 12.7%, Saudi Arabia at 7.1%, the UAE at 5.9%, and the US at 4.6%. Their top imported commodities in order from most commonly exported is crude oil, precious stones, machinery, chemicals, fertilizers, plastics, and iron and steel. India currently has a trade deficit of $143.2 billion. With Canada, however, India has a zero trade balance with exports equaling imports at $2.8 billion. India's FDI inflow totals $252.1 billion. India's FDI outflow totals $129.8 billion. This creates a net outflow of $122.3 billion for India per year.